Hey, it's Todd Alt, and welcome to Risk On. This is Todd Alt again, Jason Bartholomew. So this is our first show. It's February 1st. We decided to kick it off February 1st for a reason. And obviously the first 15 minutes of Risk On, we update the market, things we see moving. I'm a 30-year plus Wall Street veteran, been doing this a long time, CEO of a public company at NYSE American, all global. And Jason Bartholomew is a professional poker player and my partner in Risk On. He takes a lot of risks, Jason, don't you?
Sure, man. Whenever I see an opportunity to find a plus EV play, I like to exploit that. And I'm glad you have me on the show today.
And well, you're going to be on the show a lot. What do you mean today, dude? What the hell are you talking about?
Sorry.
So today, obviously, let's talk about the Dow real quick. We'll give a little update. The Dow, the S&P, the NASDAQ, this will kind of be our normal routine. But clearly today is silver. And so why don't you give us a quick update on the Dow?
You're right about that. Silver is definitely money. The Dow finished up 210 points today. It was a solid day. The S&P was up 1.4%, and the NASDAQ finished up 300, at around 2.3%. Overall, there was a lot of good activity in the market. Obviously, silver was the lead play, and obviously we had the WallStreetBet scenario with the infamous GameStop and the AMC ticker.
So for those of you who are new to the concept of Risk On, I ran a hedge fund for many years, and I do a lot of activist investing, buy a lot of companies. And so that term risk on is something that I took on a long time ago, and that is I make really concentrated bets. And for me, risk on is a philosophy. It's sort of the way that I do business. It's boom bust, and it's been boom for a while. It's helped me exit. I put a lot of money into a company one time, and 9 years later got sold to Stryker for $120 million. I've had a couple big exits, and I've had some failures. But risk on is the philosophy, and right now risk on's on silver. Why don't you kind of explain to people what people are talking about with silver? Because it's kind of crazy. I see this Reddit, non-Reddit argument about what's happening with silver.
So yeah, silver, as it goes with Reddit, the actual forum, you've got a lot of people that are pro-silver and a lot of people that are against silver. What I found the main reason they're against silver right now is because they don't want to take away from the focus, which is GameStop, and their attack on the hedge funds. They want to really focus on the actual ticker GameStop. And the thing about silver is there's a couple different ways to attack it. You can attack it in the stock market, which is mainly the paper way to attack silver, but there's also a way where you can just purchase the outright metal from online retailers. And currently what we're seeing with the online retailers like AppMex, Provident Metals, BGASC, they're out of inventory. You can't find the precious metal silver to put away into your safe or at your home. So what's interesting is there's kind of a run on the precious metal silver right now. The spot silver price closed around $29 an ounce. What I'm seeing right now with the online retailers is if you wanted to try to get yourself a 1 ounce American silver round, if you could find it, you would be paying around $40 an ounce.
Do you be paying more than spot silver right now?
You'd be paying significantly more. Spot silver's $29.
So is it possible that the Reddit community has the power to buy that much silver, hard actual the metal, and get delivery in a way where you make it impossible to find silver?
It appears that that's what's happening right now. With the paper version, which we were talking about in the stock market, there are several ETFs that they've been buying options for, including the SLV index and the PSLV index, which is the Sprott Silver Fund. And currently what's happening is the options for February and March have got a lot of interest lately. So you're seeing a lot of speculation with the actual silver price. It's going to be increasing over the next couple of months. And there's geoeconomic reasons for that. We can break that down. We have $27 trillion currently, the national debt for the United States. We're printing currency at a record pace that no one's ever seen. So as a hedge against inflation and as a hedge against the overall markets, you're seeing a lot of interest in the actual purchasing of physical silver.
I might get this wrong, but I remember hearing this topic that it took us 250 some years to get to 21 trillion in debt. It took us 1 year to get to 27 trillion. Is that about it?
That is about it. In fact, yeah.
They're flooding the currency markets. We're awash of liquidity.
Absolutely.
So it would make sense that people want to play silver, but this Reddit phenomenon is pretty crazy. I've been doing this for 30 plus years, and I always thought there'd be one day where social media would match up. In fact, a long time ago, when they actually had a discovery brokerage, I always thought the commission should be like the same institutionally, because the very first trade I ever did in the market is I bought 1,000 shares from my client of IBM at 55 and was at 52 and 3/4. And I gave the guy a discount, a 49% discount, and his commission was over $500. Nowadays, it's free on Robinhood.
That's what you're seeing. The ability to have all of these millennials and Zoomers that are able to sit home and trade commission free. They're not exactly up to speed on what's going on, and they're just buying.
These guys. No, listen. I actually think they're smart. These retail guys on Robinhood. On WallStreetBets.
Yeah.
What I'm reading is some of them are doing some crazy stuff, but a lot of them seem pretty educated. They seem to be digging into the filings and know what's going on, who's short, who's long, and who's trading. I mean, it's they're a force to be reckoned with. Since I've seen them last week, they went from about 2-point-something million to over 5 or 6.4 million members. It's kind of crazy to see this much firepower, and you wonder if any of those hedge funds are infiltrating WallStreetBets, and how you can tell whether the play is actually sponsored by if there's any kind of institutional trickery going on there. What do you think?
There's a couple of the big time educated traders on there, like Deep Effing Value. I don't know if I can say the F word. That guy is that guy is like a monster. Like, he has a huge following. He's explaining a lot of stuff, breakdown of all the shorts and the positions. He uses all the technical information like FinViz, and he does break down a lot of the details. So I think there are, though, some trolls in there, and some people that are infiltrated, definitely, that are looking for misdirection, trying to take people off of what they're focused on. So, yeah, you are seeing that more.
We could spend a lot of time on WallStreetBets. There is some other news today. Wheels Up, obviously, is going to go public through a SPAC. That's an interesting business. I actually had lunch with the CEO one time, and it's a really interesting business model. They're going to go public, $790 million in cash. It should close in the second quarter. I think the symbol's ASPL. Apple, Sam, Paul, Larry. We'll put that up on the screen for you if it's possible. And that's an interesting sort of M&A transaction. That's one of many SPACs happening. I think the SPAC that bought them was formed by someone else from LVMH, so kind of a consumer luxury brand business. If I recall, Serena Williams, Lance Armstrong, and others are sponsors of that business. So that's pretty interesting to see that some anti-airline stock. They're really obviously smaller jets, that kind of thing. I think prop planes going public for about $2.1 billion. So that's an interesting transaction. I know that you want to talk about Sundial, and I guess we gotta talk about that real quickly. And later on, we'll have more conversation in the show. The first 15 minutes of the show is obviously to talk about the markets. Before we get to Sundial, though, I think GameStop closed down 30% or so. Where'd you see it?
Around 30%.
What's the closing price that you see?
Let's take a look at the actual closing price right now. The after-hours activity seems to be down also. It looks like it was down 30%, down $100 a share.
Down $100 a share.
Yeah.
I would say that, listen, I for all the hate mail I would get out there, you're starting to see that kind of volatility. You can kind of see it breaking down a little bit. I don't know if it'll break down. I saw Ja Rule on CNBC. When you start to get the celebrities on there talking about things like this, with everybody in there, this is a scary sign for all of you. My 15-year-old daughter came up to me last week and said, "Dad, you should see what's going on with Reddit and GameStop and this thing called WallStreetBets." And that's when there was like under 3 million members. So my 15-year-old daughter's in the mix here, looking at trading stocks, looking at GameStop. It's usually a fairly scary sign that everyone and their mother's kind of in the trade, right?
And like you said, WallStreetBets now is over 7.5 million members.
Oh, wow, really?
7.5.
So that's another million since just a couple days ago.
It's incredible. So it looks like Sundial is 1.5 billion volume in trades today. That's incredible. I've never seen a number
That's
that
a cannabis stock out of Canada,
yes,
right? And
exactly.
really well traded. They raised a lot of money. Didn't they raise in January over $100 million, or was it $50 million?
Yeah, I think it was $100 million. They're actually that's closed. They are exclusively in Canada right now.
Right.
They're looking for probably ways to get in the door in the United States as more states pass and regulate marijuana.
You've been talking about that stock for as long as I think I've known you.
I've had that stock.
And then you had this AUM or whatever it was.
AUMN, Golden Minerals. Another was an exploratory silver miner. They actually landed a property in Durango province in Mexico, and they are now mining. They had a nice jump today. I was long on that one from 48 cents. It actually touched $1.30 today, and I exited my position.
Keep in mind, we're not recommending any stocks here. This show is really important. We talk about them. There's no recommendations. If we own them, we'll tell you. Jason, you did own that, right?
I did, absolutely.
Right. Did you sell that?
Yes.
All right. So you're out of that position now.
I am currently out of that position.
That made a pretty big move.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the. Is it possible to bring up on the chart the GameStop trade? So this thing is pure. Can you click the 5-day for me, please? So you see the below there. Just click the 5-day.
Look at this thing.
Yeah. So you see this thing forming a little bit. I mean, I'm a poor chartist. I know when something's a cup with a handle. I know when it's breaking out. What do you think of this?
Well, I mean, obviously you can see where the interest was from GameStop, or from from the WallStreetBets, and you can look and see in the most recent 5 days, you can see the run up. I think it ran up, if I'm correct, it went up to $483.
Sure, I saw that. I saw that either intraday or pre-market.
I mean, it's just amazing. So that's what Wall Street's afraid of. You're looking at a group of traders, some educated, some not, some hopping on the bandwagon on the Wall Street bets. And as the interest grew within the stock, obviously the price action showed it. So.
It was crazy. We're going to talk about VAR, or value at risk, in the second half of the show. One thing I see is a lot of people really attacking Robinhood, and while I'm not taking sides on this, as a guy who owned a former broker-dealer, has invested in them before, it's a tricky situation with NSCC and the Depository Trust Corporation, and people don't understand that when a stock gets really volatile, like 100 points a day, the broker-dealer sometimes has to post up 2 and 3 times the amount of capital that's traded for the day. And Robinhood today raised $2.4 billion additional dollars on top of the $1 billion they raised last week, and they need that money because, unfortunately, with Dodd-Frank and some of the rules out there, they have to deposit that value at risk at the DTC and NSCC. They have to deposit that money. They get it back in 2 days of settlement, and they can't actually use the money in your account, which is a problem. And I think regulatory-wise, the people should channel their focus on their frustration at the regulations of why they let broker-dealers have to put up capital with this volatility when the money's simply sitting in the account. Makes no sense to me. I know we're going to have an expert next week talk about this topic, because this happens to broker-dealers, and Robinhood's pretty well capitalized. That is a lot of money at risk. Anyways, hey, that was a good first 15 minutes of the show.
Yeah.
I mean, the moral of it is an update today. It was a risk-on day today. Sundial, what do you think you see for tomorrow? I
think Sundial is going to close. Actually, I'm looking at it right now. It's up 48% on the day. It looks like there's a lot of volume after hours. I think a lot of traders are going to hold this ticker overnight.
Wow. So that's Sundial's the risky trade today. That's the risk-on trade today. I'm a little leery of GameStop. If it were me, I would be like, that's just pure on absolute gambling. And I know, listen, the Wall Street Bets crowd's done an amazing job. They're really smart people, and they clearly got behind this, but there's a point in time where you got to look at something and say, what is it really worth? I always say this to people: in the short term, Wall Street is a voting machine. In the long term, it's a weighing machine, and they'll weigh out the value eventually as to what GameStop's worth. There's really nothing you can do about it long term, right? Short term, though, anything happens. All right, hey, we'll be back to you. We're going to talk about a couple interesting topics in the second half, and we'll see you shortly. Hey, welcome back to Risk On. It's Todd Alt and Jason Bartholomew. This is our first show, and I'm pretty excited about it. Obviously, the reason I did Risk On is because I've spent 30 years plus on Wall Street. I see a lot of people out there kind of like acting like they're experts. They're 25 years old. They've been trading in basically a bull market. People have no idea. There's a generation, and believe me, I know they're smart, but there's about 20 million new traders in this universe, Jason. And those 20 million new traders have not experienced what can be, some of the worst conditions ever in terms of market risk. And we're in a risk-on environment, and I'm always on risk-on. There's, James Cramer talks about there's always a bull market somewhere. There is, but right now, clearly today, Naked Brands. All right, can you bring that up on the screen real quick? Naked Brands. Naked Brands did a ATM and raised $50 million. I don't think people understand that this is effectively like a mini SPAC. They are going to have no business in Naked Brands apparently, and they had about $100 million or so that's going to be in the business.
Traders love this ticker, by the way. I mean, it's just a fan favorite on all the Discord chat forums. I always see it on all the Twitter highlights. I mean, this thing is just very liquid. Lots of scalpers. So it's
effectively, if you look at from the end of January, they effectively went parabolic from say 43 cents to as much almost to 350. Did an ATM, raised a ton of capital, and this stock has raised $50 million.
Well, let's see what happens with it, because a lot of the thunder was taken away from it, but now the ATM is closed. And let's see what happens with, like WallStreetBets and, some of the Discord boards with 20,000 plus day traders. Let's see if it can steal some thunder away from GME and AMC.
I saw on Robinhood they had limited purchases to 10 option contracts. I don't even know if there were options here. Maybe there were no options, but you could buy 600 shares total. They're really trying to limit the ability for people to run up these little low price securities.
Yeah, I even noticed even like some of these silver stocks that we were talking about, like in the initial segment, that they're limiting the ability to leverage a ticker like AG.
What's been insane, you know what's been insane? This guy has been telling me you have been bullish on silver for as long as I can remember.
Well, the thing with silver, there's a couple ways to win with silver. Not only can you just win with trading the actual equities, some of the great miners like AG, like PAAS, Pan American Silver, but you also can hold the actual metal and leverage a hedge against inflation and what's looking like a massive debt-based economy. I mean, we're at 27 trillion or so, according to the USDebtClock.org. And this isn't getting any better, any faster. And you couple that with the fact that we have the COVID-19 virus and all the money needed to subsidize, our country and even globally. I just think that silver and metal and crypto, Bitcoin particularly, are just very bullish. And like you said, there's always going to be a bull market somewhere.
Right. So, well, it's not my original line. It's Jim's. I think I heard it from Jim Cramer 25 years ago. But you got a interesting thing going on with Coinbase. Will you talk about that real quick? Because I know that's kind of coming up, right?
That is coming up in the next 60 days. We have Coinbase, who is actually doing a direct listing.
Right.
50 billion, I think, valuation.
$50 billion market cap.
Massive. The CEO's out. They're out in San Francisco. You've seen, I like the CEO. He's really just about business. What I've seen with today's culture, where a lot of these companies are running into problems, getting into politics. The CEO of Coinbase basically said, "Hey, listen, we're just going to be strictly about business. If you wanna stick with us, that's great. If you want to talk about politics, I'll accept your resignation."
But they delisted what I could see XRP, right? What day is Ripple going off? Do you remember?
Well, it's still on. In fact, it was actually pumping recently. I'm not sure on the day that it's going to be delisted, but since the government decided that it is basically not going to be.
Well, they charged them with issuing security as Section 5 violation, I believe, and I know they're fighting it. And I'm sure they raised a lot of capital. They're going to go the distance, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I saw that Coinbase took them off. And so the way they got to be trading overseas now?
Yeah, I think that's the only option is you can get on some of these exchanges like Bitfinex, Bittrex, and some of these other brokerages that are not in the United States.
Right. That's got to be devastating for people who own it in the U.S. I can't imagine that's...
Yeah.
There's really kind of no way out for them unless they are able to solve the problem with the SEC, which... They kind of charged them right on as the Trump administration went out, right?
Yeah, and at one point there was speculation that some of the people on the forums and Reddit and what have you were thinking that XRP could possibly be converted to a United States digital currency. That was the initial pump of XRP, where they're going to take that and that would be the digital currency backed dollar, if you will.
Right.
Which was kind of interesting.
What happened? I might be calling you on the spot. I know there was something up with Bitcoin in India. Will brought that up this morning.
I didn't look into it, but it appears that the Indian government is going to start creating their own cryptocurrency. I'm not sure the details of it, and I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen to Bitcoin if this happens. India has 1 billion people, so I mean that could be significant.
All right, Jason. So what's going on in poker? I mean, you're a professional poker player, and I've taken you a little away from that a little bit. But there's something going on in Vegas in terms of the casinos.
Yep.
What's going on in Florida? Give us an update on poker. Talk about risk on, man.
Let's talk about.
There's a risk on. There's a risk on opportunity there.
Let's talk about poker. So as you know, everyone knows there's the COVID-19 situation took away from live poker in particularly. We weren't able to have tournaments anywhere. The cash games were limited to 4 or 5 people when they returned. And I think Golden Nugget actually downtown on Fremont still has 5-handed cash games, which is pretty miserable considering people like to get up. They like to go to the bathroom. You can't eat at the tables anymore because of COVID. You have to step away and get a bite to eat. So what happens is...
Well, you can't eat at the tables because what? If you eat, you're more likely to get COVID?
Yeah, that's what they're saying. Well, we don't want you to put your fingers in your mouth and then start touching the cards, which I can understand that.
Oh, I guess that makes sense, doesn't it?
I mean, I'm not going to go and order some boneless buffalo wings at the Golden Nugget table and sit there and lick my fingers while I take a hand.
Got you. Yeah.
So what happens is the games break down. People get frustrated. They don't want to play, heads up or 3-handed. So the live venue suffered quite a bit. But what we're seeing now is down in Florida in particular, as you know, the governor down there, DeSantis, I believe, he actually was pretty lenient on the mask policy and opening the economy. So you've got the Seminole Hard Rock in Hollywood and the Seminole Hard Rock in Tampa that recently they've held some massive tournaments, and there's been a lot of pent-up demand. For example, if I'm just looking at the most recent one that ended just a couple of days ago, they had a tournament. It was $3,500 buy-in. So, that's a nice size buy-in.
Wow.
They got 1,573 entries at $3,500 a clip.
So there's definitely a demand to go play poker.
It's massive. First place winner actually took down over $200,000, which is crazy. Well, so yeah, it's back on. Vegas, I'm looking at what you said about the casinos is true. You're looking at the MGM properties and some of the other Caesars properties. They're like closing during midweek because there's no demand.
So is it like a Monday through Thursday close or something?
It really is. Like Park MGM, who actually went smoke-free, which I kind of like. It's the only one on the Strip that's smoke-free. I was passing through there over the weekend. It was fine, but you can't go there during the week. It's not open.
Wow. So what's the only places you really play poker? I noticed when you're playing online, you can only play in New Jersey or was it New Jersey and here?
It's New Jersey and here, and now Pennsylvania and Michigan. They've legalized it, but the WSOP.com is in Nevada and New Jersey, so they have a joint player pool, and I've been playing some tournaments on there, which is pretty. It's pretty handy now that I moved from Florida to Nevada. I'm able to do that, but again, you only have the demand on the weekends. The tournament selection during the week is very, very small. The buy-ins are small. The overall prize pool just isn't worth it. But it's kind of fun to play online.
Got it. What else is going on in poker? Anything?
So with poker comes, let's talk about Las Vegas and how the poker rooms and the casinos themselves has affected a lot of the dealer community. With the lack of demand, a lot of the dealers had to stay home and unfortunately, had to collect the federal government, unemployment or the awards they were giving out for the COVID. But I mean, for the most part, poker now has returned to the Strip. Most of the rooms that are world renowned, like Bellagio, Aria, they're actually back in action full time. Caesars is back in action. There were a couple of rooms that had to close. Excalibur no longer has a poker room. They're actually closed now. Green Valley Ranch off Strip, they actually closed their poker room. Luxor closed theirs in Mandalay Bay.
How does this recover? I'm listening to what's happening in poker. It's like is it just a slow, gradual? Like, you think this would be like a hockey stick once they reopen, or is it just? How quickly do people get back into poker?
Well, I'm seeing the Venetian tournaments getting large fields, so there is a lot of pent-up demand in California and Las Vegas. With the travel restrictions, people are a little bit afraid to travel. You're still getting a lot of people from California driving here to play the tournaments, which is great. So I think it's going to be fine. But I did notice that some of the poker players that played full-time, they have gone into different career paths. A few of my friends, they've actually done more trading like I have. So
you're a trader and a poker player and a former professional baseball player.
Yes, I did.
You got it all in one.
I did take some risk in my life here so far.
Absolutely. Hey, so when we come up next on our next segment, which is coming up in a few minutes. We're going to talk about why Jason and I moved to Vegas. Now, for those of you who know me, I've lived in California, I think, since I was 4 or 5 years old. And I recently moved to the Southern Highlands, and special thanks to Bradley for the studio today. For those of you who don't know Bradley, look him up. The real Bradley. Anyways, so we're going to come up and be talking about why we moved to Vegas. Why don't we give them a little prep? You and Andrea moved here kind of on a whim, right? I mean, why don't you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I have been married. I've been with my wife for 22 great years. She's a great girl, and we decided that one of our bucket list items was to move to Las Vegas, live on the Strip. Not just move to Vegas, but to live on the Strip.
You live in a high rise, right?
Yeah, we live on a high rise. It's right across from the Strip. You can see all the buildings.
I know you got a lot of famous neighbors, right?
Oh, for sure.
You do. Mr. Baseball and a few others.
Yeah.
Right? Is he called? Oh, he's Charlie Hustle.
Charlie Hustle.
Charlie Hustle. Got to get that right.
Charlie Hustle has a daily grind. I see him quite often.
Right.
He's like clockwork at the same time every day. He's leaving the building, doing his thing. And I think he's close to 80 years old now.
Really?
Yeah.
Still grinding it out.
Yeah, absolutely grinding
There's
it
a
out.
risk-on guy.
That guy.
That guy took risk, did he?
Put that guy in the Hall of Fame.
Exactly.
I mean, for sure.
It's time to forgive and forget. Can you ever forgive a guy for betting on baseball?
He did bet on baseball, but by all circumstances, he did not bet on his team to lose. He bet on his team to win. I'm okay with it morally. I mean, look at these guys that are, they were all doing steroids. And when I was playing minor league baseball, all the hitters were doing steroids. All the owners knew that all the players were doing steroids, but they needed the home run ball to bring the game back after the strike in '94. So,
sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's just part of the game now. I just don't understand why Pete Rose is being excluded. And, guys like Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds are still excluded. And they have standalone careers that actually, they're Hall of Fame
It's so
worthy.
ridiculous. If they say Barry Bonds took steroids, I don't care whether you're on steroids or not. Do you know how hard it is to hit that ball? When the ball's coming at you at 95 miles an hour, trust me, it's really difficult to hit that ball. To hit it out as many times as he hit it out, it's just whatever. I know that I'm not a purist. I have no idea. And people get pissed off about this topic, but
well, yeah. So we actually can talk about how I arrived here in Vegas and how you arrived here in Vegas in the next segment.
All right, we'll bring that up in the next segment. I appreciate everybody. Obviously, Risk On is a new show. We host a show every day right after the market. It's new to us. It's new to you. We're going to bring you ideas. Obviously, be careful. Research your own ideas. None of these are recommendations. You got to pay attention to that. We're going to try to cut down what we're seeing. Obviously, I won't be able to talk about the stocks that I own. I'm CEO, obviously, of a company on the New York Stock Exchange American. So I can't comment on that stock, but I can comment on everything else. And you can see my 13D filings. You can see what I'm buying, obviously. I've filed a couple 13Ds recently. We'll see you on the next segment. Hey, guess what? Just now, Jason, what happened in marijuana? Let's talk about it. Cannabis.
Hey, we're looking at a movement to federalize and legally federalize marijuana. It looks like Democratic Senator Chuck Schumer out of New York is leading the charge.
This is could be big, obviously. Now that the Democrats are in charge, they could probably push this through.
Pretty sure they can. I mean, they have the tie-breaking vote in the Senate now that the vice president can do that. So
if they could federally make it legal, that does change the banking laws. It does change your ability to invest in it. I suspect this is going to be big news about Chuck Schumer. This just happened just now. It could be big news.
Hey, let's face it. We need the revenue sources. The tax money will come in handy. I mean, we were speaking of $27 trillion in debt.
Sure.
So.
Dustin Diamond, guy, a friend of Joe. People know him as Crypto Joe. I think he went to school with Joe, and a friend of a couple of our friends actually. Stage 4 lung cancer, died today at 44. That's Screech, man.
Yeah, Screech, Saved by the Bell. For those of you in the YouTube world might not know who this is, but I'm sure you've seen the reruns on TV. So,
unfortunately for him, didn't make it through some of that. That behavior. Who knows why he got lung cancer? You never know. You never know why people can smoke and never get it, and other people smoke a couple times and get it.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Like, you could work in a factory and a paper mill for 20 years and smoke and not get it. And then some guys can just come down with it.
So I live in Vegas now and bought a house here. And I moved my company from California headquarters here to Nevada, to the Southern Highlands. And you were here before me. Why don't you talk about your little adventure about driving across country and moving to Vegas?
So
from Florida,
from South
you went
Florida,
the opposite direction.
Yeah, we were down in West Palm Beach area, and what happened was we just decided to pick up and move during a pandemic. I mean, what crazy people would do that? But it was on our bucket list, something to do. So we packed up the SUV, sold just about everything, gave some stuff to my mom, and we were on our way. Just Andrea and myself and our little dog, whose name is Lucky. We had lost our other dog, who about 6 months prior to, her name was Vegas. So we had Lucky in Vegas.
Really?
Yeah, so we were hoping to get them both out here, but RIP Vegas, we did get Lucky out here, and here we are. We took the drive, 23 or 2,400 miles. We spread it out over 3 or 4 days. Texas is the nut low, man. Texas is so big. It's so hard to get through there, and obviously I didn't run good, so I got pulled over by one of the local police, and but luckily he liked my dog Lucky, and we got off with no ticket, so that was some run good there.
I have flown into Texas, landed in Dallas, had to go to Midland, Texas for an oil and gas deal. And I was so tired, Phil was driving, and we drove 4 or 5 hours, it seemed like, in a straight line. We still weren't there. Driving through Texas is agony. It is the flattest land. There's cows everywhere. There's nothing to see. I think the place is incredible. Although, ironically, one of the biggest trades I ever made was when I was younger running a hedge fund. I had a big position in Taco Cabana where the symbol was taco at the time. I think there's a different taco now. But we sold to private equity. I was a big shareholder, and that made a lot of money. And Taco Cabana, it did really great in Texas and Oklahoma. And I thought this Tex-Mex thing was going to be sort of a national trend, but we couldn't get them. When they opened stores up in Denver, they did terrible. They could do all the business they wanted to in Texas and Oklahoma, couldn't do it anywhere else. And now they're part of Fiesta Brands, as a public company.
Yeah.
But those restaurants, I mean, the funny part about restaurants, whether it be Jack in the Box or Taco Cabana or even Cheesecake Factory, I've made money in restaurants, but I would not know how to operate in a pandemic. We basically got rid of all of our restaurants as soon as COVID started. They were all put out of business. Really terrible. Yeah,
and those restaurants were nice. I mean, you had a couple in San Diego, if I recall.
We had 4 in San Diego, Prep Kitchen, and we had one in L.A. that we were part of. We were an investor in. Really, really sucked to watch them go. But I got to tell you, in retrospect, it was the best decision I made, because I was looking at thinking it was going to cost $1.5 million to keep them going, and then still COVID's killing these guys. These guys are getting crushed.
Yeah, and with California, if obviously I didn't live in California, you were there pretty much your whole life.
My whole life.
The lockdowns there were pretty
brutal,
pretty tough.
Yeah, they're brutal. And only recently, I mean, it's the strangest thing where you can sleep, you can eat indoors, outdoors. I don't know the whole thing. It makes no sense to me. Apparently, they can tell whether it's more easier to pass. So you can be in a tent outdoors.
Yeah.
But indoors, you can't. I don't know. It makes no sense to me.
I saw. Circling back, I just want to mention one thing. God bless Texas. I love Texas people. They're great. It's. I wanted to talk more about what you were talking about with outdoor dining in California. So I did see a video of a restaurant owner that went viral, and I think it was Tarzana, California.
I saw that.
And what happened was there was actually a movie being shot right across the street from her restaurant, and the movie folks arranged outside dining. And the governor was okay with it. They allowed it during the set when they were filming. But right adjacent to it was this poor lady's restaurant, and she had the exact same setup as the restaurant folks, and she was not allowed to have any customers there.
It makes no sense to me. I'm going to coin this new phrase, and I don't know if it's ever been said before. Probably has been, but logical politics. There's no logic in some of the decisions being made. They appear to be like, we're going to wing it the whole way, and we're not going to treat people equally. And I think that's what's upsetting people. That kind of goes back to the WallStreetBets, right? Yeah. Is that, you can get short as a hedge fund 140% of a company's outstanding shares. Yep. And these guys are calling them out and saying we need a level playing field. Yeah, it's amazing. Like when they're crushing everyone, and they literally did this to Toys R Us. You remember that, right? Yeah, for sure. I mean, Toys R Us got destroyed by these folks. So they're now doing it to GameStop, taking advantage of the COVID situation. And now what happens was these 7 or almost 8 million now, I just looked on Reddit. These folks are like, enough with this. We're going to rage against the machine. We're going to go ahead and play your game, but we're going to beat you at it. And then once they decide that, they've seen that they're winning, then they change the rules of the game. They want to take the ball and go home. I will tell you that I in talking about Wall Street and the friends I have on it, the friends I have that run hedge funds, they are afraid of single stock risk. I will tell you that they are afraid of WallStreetBets now.
Yeah.
They're looking at their shorts and they're wondering if they're going to get crushed. And if you look at the medium, you follow up on WallStreetBets and you take a look at what they're talking about. If a name you're short in your book comes up, you could be dead, right? I mean, this is a powerful force going against the mainstream in terms of the everyday institutional firm, and I know that hedge funds are having to rethink their risk profile, right? And let me cover this for you guys. If you looked at hedge funds and the way that they operate, there's what's called a paired trade. And so the idea, I'm going to give you a really simple example, is if you're a hedge fund that believes Coke is going to outperform Pepsi, on a relative basis, you'd be short Pepsi and you'd be long Coke. And those paired trades meant you were in an industry like the beverage industry, but you were hedged out. And these are important things that hedge funds do when they go, like, if you want to go, I remember one of the trades for a long time, I was long Dell Computer, short Compaq, right?
Right.
And that trade worked out pretty well, actually. But nowadays, with WallStreetBets, if you're short the wrong name, you're going to get taken to the woodshed.
They will.
I mean, this is full on, what is that movie, North Dakota? What's that movie called where they put the guy in the wood chipper? I mean, you're dead, right? You are dead. They're going to find your body, right? And so this is a new force. Well, listen, I don't think this is going away. I don't think that the idea that the retail investor can effectively take their phone and have Wall Street at their fingertips is pretty crazy. I literally, Jason knows this. I literally can go to my my Robinhood. It takes 2 seconds. I have a small little Robinhood account that I started with. Well, that's up in the aftermarket. What's going on there? The I filed a 13D on SSNT at Silver Sun. So it's up in the aftermarket.
Yep.
So you can go here and literally, I think I've traded crypto, and I don't know that I'm exaggerating, like 40 times between like 30,000 and 40,000 and 31 and 36 and 33 and 37. And it's the power of this right in the palm of your hands has changed access. And the internet sort of just makes everything transparent. Eventually, you can't really hide. And I don't think the old guard on Wall Street is prepared for this.
They're not prepared for it. It's a different generation. You've got commission-free trading in crypto and stocks and options. So what happens is you're seeing, like you said, Bitcoin. You're just watching it, you're charting it, you're looking at the tape, and you're just basically swing trading it within, sometimes intraday.
We said this morning we were going to buy 1,000 miners, and now that we bought that data center, I'm really bullish on Bitcoin. I was bullish on it before, but didn't understand the kind of existential risk that could take place when that thing went back from 17,000 to 3. We're a better position now. What do you think about Bitcoin long term? I know you're a bull, but like, what do you see playing out over the next couple of years? Especially, here's the thing: the more the government says you can't play there, or the more the government takes things away from people, they want to take the ball away from people, the more people want Bitcoin. It's just clear as day. They want decentralization.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look at the what was it, Roaring '20s, I guess. We had the speakeasies, when Prohibition took place.
What lunatic, by the way? I'm just going to look at the camera for this one. What lunatic thought that outlawing alcohol was going to work? There was a politician that thought that. There was a series of politicians that thought that was a good idea. That actually happened. We have a generation now that thinks that they can drink whenever they want. There was time where it was illegal to drink.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I mean, look at, you have, even to this day, you've got, TV shows about, the clear, the liquid, the moonshine. I mean, you've got alcohol, producers in places like Kentucky and Tennessee, and, they've handed down their business from generations. So I don't know what they were thinking back then.
Hey, if you got a topic you want to cover, comment below, obviously. We read all the comments, even all the ones that hate me. We read them all anyways.
Let's get back to Bitcoin. So obviously we're looking at, China tried to ban mining.
Sure.
They tried to get rid of mining altogether.
Didn't they ban it for a while?
They did, but they still have the most terahash. Like they're mining the most crypto by far of any country. So now you're looking at some American companies that have decided to move forward with a single line business model of mining crypto.
Yeah, Riot, for example. What about Mara? Are they single line?
Yeah, Mara patent, they're single line. They've got they've got a couple of facilities with. They did a joint venture with Beowulf, which is a big, well-known data center conglomerate. Riot has the old Alcoa building up in Messina, New York, up near the Canadian border, with super affordable utilities.
Sure.
So you've seen these two. Now talk about risk on.
Yeah, and now we have a building in Michigan, obviously, with up to 300 megawatts of power and a perennial power deal. So this is something people are committed to. We're committed to mining and building a Bitcoin base, and so are these other. Riot obviously and Mara look like they're pretty pure plays.
Yeah, and I don't think people realize how much 300 megawatts can be.
Sure.
The largest data center right now in the country, correct me if I'm wrong, is 450 megawatts. So
is that Alcoa?
Yeah, I think that's the one in Messina, New York.
Right.
So,
but I thought they said they were using 117 megawatts right now. I don't know. You never.
I know that Riot has around 37,000 S19s, Bitmains. I do know that because I just did.
Smokes.
They have 37,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they really invested hard.
Yeah.
In their recovery. I can see why that.
Yep.
That pure play makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, we're not recommending any of these stocks, and do your own research.
Yeah.
We're just talking about what we think about what's going on with the fundamentals, the business. But where do you see Bitcoin out here a little ways?
How can Bitcoin? I just don't see how people can stop investing in Bitcoin. I mean, is it a wealth storage mechanism? Is it, is it money? What is it? Do you think? I mean, I just think it's both right now. I don't.
I kind of feel like the Winklevi do, the stored value kind of thing. I mean, reality is, unless you're going to melt gold and make it into something. I think Buffett most of the time couldn't stand gold.
Yeah.
He and Munger are completely against Bitcoin. But if you follow Elon Musk, this is part of the simulation. We're getting a digital currency, right?
Yeah.
If you believe the simulation theory, I know my son Enzo would freak out if he heard this. If you believe in that theory, then you got to believe that things will continue to go digital, right?
Yeah.
So does the U.S. eventually create a digital currency?
Will they create a currency that's backed by, what will it be backed by? Backed by bullets? I mean, what's the dollar backed by? What's the dollar backed by? The dollar is backed by the military. If you mess with our petrodollar, we'll bomb you. I mean, there's nothing else that is, nothing else that is backed by. If put in the chat if you have an idea of what the dollar is backed by besides our military, please enlighten me. I'd like to know.
All right. Well, hopefully that doesn't get us in trouble. It's kind of true, right?
Yeah.
So, hey, speaking of that, what do you think? What's going on with Myanmar?
Well, we've got
talk about risk on.
Yeah.
This is a risk on situation. Different countries make investments in different countries. You wake up one day and the military's in charge.
Myanmar, the military's in charge. I can't probably say the C word here, so I'm gonna refrain from that. But the military is in charge there.
But they actually took the president and said, "Hey, we're in charge right now."
Yeah, they did, and it was all because of elections.
Right. So, all right, we're not going to go there. Yeah. Obviously, we don't want to get in trouble.
Yeah. So.
This can be censored from time to time.
Yeah, absolutely. So the algos are always running on YouTube. We just don't want to push any hot buttons. So
right. So we'll stay out of that.
Yeah.
I know there's a few other things you wanted to cover. I guess I'll cover it in the last couple of minutes. Let me cover about us moving to Vegas. So we decided to move to Nevada after being in California for the better part of 45 years, mainly because it takes about 30 minutes to get anywhere in California now.
Yeah.
Or longer. And I mean sometimes longer.
Yeah.
And even during the pandemic, when things were really cleared up, it still took a while to get there. And it's just became incredible, the divergence of expense versus what we could get in terms of employees. And listen, California is beautiful. I love it. I grew up there. I've lived in Orange County most of my adult life. My kids were born in Santa Monica. My other kids, my twins were born in Santa Monica. Miranda and Chase were born in Hogue. I love California. I went to high school there. I went to college there. There's nothing like the place. The problem is the politics and the environment and the taxation is completely out of control. And I got to spend some time in San Francisco, and I just could not believe what's happening in the streets in San Francisco. I could not believe it. And when you come to Nevada, you experience wide open roads, friendly people, and costs that are somewhat in line. And quite honestly, in the world of media and stuff like that, things I care about, some investment. I mean, listen, obviously a lot of people are going to Austin, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Oracle, a lot of people are in Austin already.
Did Elon go to Austin? I know
he went to Austin,
okay,
for sure.
Yeah.
Listen, California will figure it out eventually.
Yeah.
But, I'm not going to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars of taxes, which I do in California, and and feel like I'm fighting a losing battle, walking down the streets with. Unfortunately, they say we have 46% of the homeless in California, and I don't know that the government leadership in California is willing to do anything about it.
Yeah, they implemented the sanctuary city policy. It's just a magnet for people. I mean, that's just going to attract, all of the people that, are homeless. And the weather, of course, is going to attract them. When I was in South Florida, the number of homeless there just wasn't that many. I mean, proper Miami have some, proper Fort Lauderdale, but for the most part, no, the streets were pretty free of homeless people.
We paid the politicians to figure it out. They run for office. They got to figure out how to take care of the homeless population. And their answer can't be, we'll let them just put up a tent anywhere they want.
Downtown LA is a tragedy.
It's a disaster.
It's terrible.
I mean, it's literally a disaster. I don't know what people are going to do about it. But for us and for our employees and for our future growth, and we're looking at EV in a big way, and we just did not want to be in California, from the sense of that our employees had to deal with what was going on there, the taxation, our ability to recruit good people. Mm-hmm. California's a wonderful place, but the politicians have got to figure it out. I know that they're talking about a recall with Gray Davis. What's going on there?
Yeah, well, we've got Gavin Newsom has 1.3 million votes to recall him.
Right.
I need to check the research, but I think they only need 200,000 more.
I can't imagine though. I can't imagine Gavin. Can't imagine him getting recalled. I mean, it's a Democratic state.
Yeah.
Right? That seems unusual to me. Hey, well, we appreciate your time today on our first show. Obviously, we're getting used to it. We hope you enjoy it. Post down in the comments if you have any questions about it. Let's wrap up for tomorrow. What do you think the action looks like tomorrow in the market?
We're going to look for the continuation of precious metals, the silver market.
Sure.
I'm going to be monitoring the online retailers to see what we have there. If there are any silver available, we're going to take a closer look into Sundial again, SNDL.
Right.
And we're going to monitor the crypto situation.
Right. So silver's the risk-on trade for sure. That's definitely the risk-on trade.
Yep.
We're not telling you to buy it. We're just pointing out to you that that's where money's being put. It's not hard to figure that out, actually. We're not brain surgeons, right? We're just reporting what we see, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, we thank you for joining the show. I'm Todd Alt. This is Jason Bartholomew. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow. And risk on.